Boom, 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 boom. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning on in. I appreciate you, Thanks a lot. If you guys like the Tobin and Leroy radio show and you guys like to watch our ugly mugs, you guys can do that now. YouTube.com/TakeMyMail. I'll put that in the description right here. And you guys can go subscribe, see all the silly sauce that we got going on. Tonight, say like around, 5 o'clock this became official or something like that? Shams bomb. Shams is off and running, kicking Woj's ass, quite frankly, if I may say so, with all due respect to the Woj man. Shams has got him beat to the punch so far. The first official piece of Heat news really hit the wire this week, and that was that PJ Tucker is opting out of his contract with the Miami Heat. That would have paid him $7.4 million this upcoming season. So PJ Tucker is officially going to enter free agency, and that does not necessarily mean he's gone from the Miami Heat. It just means that he wants more money, body. So we will see what goes down with PJ Tucker. I have a feeling the Heat are going to bring him back. I don't know what this is going to command because Shams does report several championship contending teams are expected to compete for Tucker, who was a key part of Milwaukee's title run in 2021. So that's the interesting thing, is typically teams that are championship contending typically have a lot of money locked up. Maybe if it was somebody like, I don't know, just off the top of my head, like the Grizzlies. And I don't even know what their cap situation is. I would just think that everybody on the team's super young, so they're probably a little bit more flexible than other teams. But for the most part, your Milwaukee's, your Golden States, your Miami's are going to have their money mostly tied up in three guys. It's going to be about three guys making $30 million, maybe one guy making $15 to $20 million, and then, somebody making an exception here, bada bing, bada boom, bada bee. So it's a thing an agent will throw out there. Hey, everybody wants PJ Tucker. But there was a lot of praise coming out of the Heat from this end of the season media sessions. The only two players that really got off scot-free without any critiques were Jimmy Butler, quite obviously, and PJ Tucker. Pat Riley really hit everybody on the roster, probably, all right, except for like Gabe Vincent and Max Strus. I'm saying but the most highlighted player, Kyle obviously got it. Tyler got a little bit of the business. Even Bam got a little bit of the business. Duncan Robinson got a little bit of the business. Everybody got a little bit of the Pat Riley business. But PJ Tucker did not. In fact, PJ Tucker got extreme praise from the Godfather, who called him a cornerstone.
Well, PJ is like a cornerstone. He was like, when UD was in his prime, even though UD wasn't, a primary scorer, he did things throughout the course of a game that were significant. I can remember going back to 2006, we all remember, that kind of player who wasn't Shaq or wasn't Zoe or he wasn't Dwayne or whoever, made the biggest plays in the fourth quarter for us offensively to win that championship. And so that's what Tuck does. Tuck is the kind of player that doesn't have to do a lot, from a scoring standpoint, but he makes so many great plays for you. And he is like a cornerstone for us, toughness, rebounding, defense, no-nonsense guy. And so, I'd love to have Tuck back next year. He's part of our core, and we'll see what happens. There's not enough like him in the league. No, there are. There's a lot of guys like him in the league, but he's special.
And Pat Riley loves him some PJ Tucker. Barry Jackson doing a fantastic story this year. Let me get the exact excerpt of it. I think it was like something to the effect of Pat Riley. PJ Tucker's driving around one of his fancy-ass cars. Great cars, great shoes, PJ Tucker. And Pat Riley pulls up next to him at a red light and is just like, I love you. I love you. and just rolls off. Like, he loves PJ Tucker, as you can tell from what he is saying there. You can see that he's speaking to the soul. Everybody in this organization has said, PJ Tucker is Heat culture. This is a perfect marriage that happened way too late in life. That this is a guy at 37 years old that he'd have been rumored to want forever. It has always been said he was the perfect guy for Heat culture. You know, PJ Tucker, the way he plays basketball is the way the Miami Heat like their basketball players playing basketball. He is intense. He is smart. He is versatile. I think surprised the Heat with his versatility this year, especially when Bam Adebayo went out. Kind of went into that role of facilitating a lot in the things that Bam can do in that type of game. We saw a guy who was unlocked a little bit more. You know, this guy was kind of just put in a position where corner threes, that's all you're going to do. And we saw the shot put floater, that money floater that PJ Tucker was bringing back to the fold this year was very important. And then you also think about this playoffs where, you know, he was one of the guys you just kind of always trusted throughout the entire thing, knowing that he was banged up, knowing that he was not 100%. PJ Tucker definitely got himself in a much better spot. And you think like to last year, like the year beforehand, he had averaged something like 3.7 points per game. With the Miami Heat, he averaged nearly 8 and 6 rebounds. You know, just did everything. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's cliche because you say, like, oh, he doesn't show up in the box score. Well, PJ Tucker actually showed up in the box score more than probably he had in a long time in his career with the Miami Heat. And I do think that they are going to do a lot to keep him, you know, with giving him something to raise. I don't know if they go the route of a Goran Dragic, where I'm not saying he's going to get $20 million. But something where maybe it's a 1-and-1 and it's just like a, hey, wink, you know, one way or another, we'll find a way to make this second year work. Something to that effect, where it was the same thing with Goran, where they brought him in, it was a 1-and-1, and then like they did a sign and trade the next year. Goran got his guaranteed money and ended up leaving because, you know, there is a question of he is, you know, 37 years old, and there's definitely an age thing that has to be worked out. I would say if I have one critique with PJ Tucker, if they bring him back, they really do have to talk to him. And I know that he is one of the things I love about PJ Tucker is he has a code as a player. He does not like missing action, and he does not like complaining about foul calls. Now, he will scowl the hell out of a referee, and he will look like he's going to pop a basketball. But he is just such a throwback, as Eric Spoelstra will describe him, that he doesn't, you know, Spo's joke. Like, I don't want to ask him about should he sit out. He'll curse me out. And that's real. But we got to be real about this. Like, if he's going to be, if he's going to be this age, right, and he's going to be playing this intense, where all the other guys are basically taking time off. Kyle Lowry, personal days. Jimmy Butler, knick-knack injuries here and there. PJ Tucker needs to take more time off next year. He does. He needs to be in a position where he gets into the playoffs as fresh as possible. In fact, when he had a little bit of an injury and it was like he got some time off, he goes, man, I haven't felt this good since December. And you like, stop it. December? You haven't been feeling good since December? And that's how you play? So I really think that he'd have to do something in the effect of they got to protect PJ Tucker from himself, in that having him in the best possible shape and the best possible condition for a postseason run, because we did see a guy who did break down by the end of it. And it's tough not to look at his age and think that correlates. You know, it's just like with Kyle Lowry, everybody correlates, oh, the hamstrings, the age, the fitness, that all kind of ties together. Nobody ever really questions PJ Tucker's fitness. Guys kind of built like a brick bleep house at, 6'5" of whoop your ass. He will, it's not a question of shape for him or conditioning for him, but he does play balls to the wall nonstop. So I do think if they bring him back, there's got to be some kind of a discussion there of like, hey, we got to pace some games, dude. Like if you're playing the Pistons or the Kings on a Tuesday, maybe PJ sits that one out. You give Big Yurt some run that night. I don't know. The other thing is, a big thought from Heat fans, I have this argument with my co-host Leroy Horde all the time, is the Heat need more size. You know, the Heat need a true center. People don't think Bam is a true center. They want to add some more size to this. You know, there's like a Miles Turner who's out there, for example, from the Indiana Pacers. You know, would the Heat be in a game like that? If they aren't in the Orca game, would they be in the Mahi Mahi game of getting somebody like Miles Turner, who certainly feels like he's been underutilized in Indiana? And you think about his shot blocking, you think about his three-point shooting, he'd kind of be that perfect fit next to Bam. But obviously, if they did that, then where do you do with PJ Tucker? Probably wouldn't be on the team, you know? So do they go that route? Because look, the Heat's defense was really good this year. I think people look at this and they say, well, it would take a little bit more pressure off of Bam to have somebody a little bit more pure, a little bit more size. But that's just not how the Heat do things. Like, it is a versatile switching defense. Everybody, Piranha-esque, being able to be thrown at all these different bodies of all these best players and really, really, really try and wear them down, whether it be James Harden, whether it be Jason Tatum, whether it be a Trae Young, just different guy after different guy after different guy. Bam, PJ, Gabe Vincent, Jimmy Butler, all of these different bodies and great wing defenders that you can throw at them to really, really frustrate them. But Eric Spoelstra really just couldn't rave enough about PJ Tucker and everything that he brought to the table this year.
He was so important all across the board. That competitive spirit, his competitive will, his consistent toughness that you could just count on every single day. And he has a way of communicating that and inspiring everybody in the locker room that is so genuine. And if you're just observing it from the outside, you're like, wow, that's intense. But to everybody in the locker room, it's a special, genuine feeling. You know, when you have somebody that is that committed to winning and helping other guys. He's so unselfish, you know, as a player, always taking on the biggest challenges. Defensively, he'll do all the little things, the dirty work, the tough things, and never complain about it. He never complains or talks about his shots. He's just completely selfless, an absolute throwback player. That's why he's beloved, you know, by staff and everybody in the locker room. If I had to pick, something that surprised me, it would be certainly the skill level offensively. That wasn't necessarily something that we were planning on. The adversity kind of brought it out, where we had to find different solutions offensively when we went through the injuries, and Jimmy and Bam were out, and we had a bunch of other guys out as well. We needed, to put the ball somewhere. And he had mentioned to me, when we went out to dinner in L.A., that he had played point guard before when he played in Germany. And I laughed. I was with Chet. We were at dinner with him. And I was like, no way, were you a point guard? And he swore on it. And I said, okay, well, at some point we're probably going to have to find out. We've had a lot of guys in that position where we let them handle and everything. And sure enough, about two weeks later, we started going through our injuries. We're like, all right, we're about to find out right now. We're going to start using him as a trigger, have him handle more, play out of the post with him or the elbows. And he was just sensational, in those moments. It shouldn't have been a surprise to me. If you're that much of a high IQ player defensively and you see things happen before they happen, you have to have incredible instincts defensively and toughness, experience, competitive will. But to be really elite defensively also, you have to be able to see plays before they happen. And that's IQ. That's IQ for the game. That's intelligence for the game. And he has that, times 10. And offensively, he has a great feel, even though, he's mostly been a spot-up shooter. But he still knows how to get to spacing. He knows how to help your best players be great. And then, why I say it shouldn't have surprised me. If you know how to do all those things, you definitely see the game in a deep level. And that's what we saw with him we eventually got to know him. And he really revealed that he could be a really good passer in our system. And that was fun to see.
And he was beloved, man. Like, it's one of those things where I will always think that if this is the only year of PJ Tucker's career, I will be sad. Because, one of the things that was disappointing, a couple things. You always think that, yes, you need to go get the York. I'm guilty of it as always. But these guys are important. Jay Crowder to that championship team, he was important. You saw what he did to the Suns the year after that and the year after that. Like, guy was an important piece. And Jimmy Butler was very vocal that he wanted Jay Crowder around and to keep him around, and the Heat just weren't willing to break the bank on him. They weren't willing to give him that third year. PJ Tucker, a little bit older, also has a really tight relationship with Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has those two veterans in the starting lineup with PJ and Kyle Lowry. They're very close with Jimmy. I mean, PJ and Jimmy Butler always goofing on Instagram with each other. Just kind of cut from the same cloth, dude. And so the Heat, I would imagine if they say, like, well, what does Jimmy want? I think Jimmy would really like to keep playing with PJ Tucker. I think that this organization, you hear what Pat Riley says about him, that he's a cornerstone, that he's special, that Eric Spoelstra just loves everything that he brings to the table, the vocality that he has. And by the way, how about in the midst of a brouhaha between Spo and Jimmy Butler, who was there to pick up the clipboard? PJ Tucker. Nonchalant, like it was nothing. My favorite moment, though, if this is the end of PJ Tucker, he was by far, I would say, my favorite post-game interview. Just like always gave thorough, heartfelt answers to everything. But also, if you asked a dumb question or asked a question he thought was unbecoming, he would call your ass out on it. And my favorite was this one during the playoffs.
PJ, a minute ago, you said that Spo let you and Bam and Jimmy figure something out together. Can you tell us exactly what it was that you were allowed to figure out and when you did it? And
you want me to just tell Philly exactly what we talked about?
No.
Just tell them exactly what I just so they can just go in the film room tonight and say, this is what they're doing so we can... That is silly.
No, I mean, it's not.
That's pretty silly.
I just meant in general. What?
You're serious? No, I mean, like, no.
No, I'm not asking you for the X's and O's. Just what was the problem that you were. It was. You were
James Harden scored a lot of points in the quarter.
Okay.
Joe Embiid, we fouled him a lot. Danny Green getting wide open threes.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you guys.
It's just tremendous. I love it because it's just like, yeah, you want me to what? No. I will not be happy if PJ Tucker leaves. I love PJ Tucker. I love what he brought to this team this year. I will not be okay if PJ Tucker is gone. I'm going to be very, very sad. I have not fallen for a player on the Heat like this in a year. This probably since Birdman. Like Birdman kind of just, we all fell in love with, like, in the span of it was less than a year. That's how incredible his run with the Heat was and how good he was in those spurts. But, like, PJ Tucker really just felt like such the heart and soul of this team this year. Could always just bring it, could always just flip a game with his intensity. I just loved watching him play basketball this year. And we saw a couple things. We saw how the loss of Jay Crowder affected the Heat in the run it back year. And we saw that PJ Tucker not being on the Milwaukee Bucks had an effect on them this year. And so if he truly is going to be pursued by a lot of championship contenders, as is reported by Shams, one of the things that's a benefit of that, if you're a contender, is you're not only making yourself stronger, but you're making the other contender weaker. And I think that really happened with Miami. It's not only did they take away PJ Tucker, and I know they didn't have Chris Middleton, but not only did they not have PJ Tucker, did the Heat have PJ Tucker, but you took him away from Milwaukee, which I think was a huge benefit for Miami. And I think it's important to keep him around.